Well, it's seldom I get in the shop anymore, but there's kind of little reasons I decided to be in here today just to talk about a little thing I just carved out and made. These were some little elves I'm kind of cut out and dyed and carved, and I'll tell you the little story about them. First of all, I had a piece of wood that was just kind of in a regular shape, like half of a house, with this little square to the side. And it was, first of all, to start with, just a random little piece of wood. I didn't know for a long time what I'd make out of it, but when I was putting some basswood cardinals into the red dye to be soaked and to be dyed red, and I kinda, and in order for them to sink to the bottom and not float at the top, I kinda had to put some other pieces of wood in there to hold them down after closing the lid on, that the lid could hold the other pieces of wood down to hold the cardinals down in the dye. And while I was at it, I decided to use that piece of wood. And then it just so happened, while using that as one of the pieces for that, the piece itself turned red as well. I kind of just knew in the first place it was just a random scrap piece and it wouldn't hurt it to turn it red and probably find some way to use it anyway. And sure enough, it just so happened that once the piece came out and it had turned red, I decided to do a little bit more. It was all one piece like this to begin with, but I decided to saw these little lines into it, saw these little places for the back of the hat, and saw this little place in back here for the back of the head. And I'd say I also, after that, sawed it in half into these two pieces, deciding I could make two of whatever it was. And turned out that when I did, that the dye didn't soak through the whole thing. Some of it was still white on the inside, and there were still some white parts around the edges where I had made the cuts. So I decided to soak them both, get them completely red. Knew I'd be able to make an elf or something out of them. Sure enough, that was what I did. So I'll explain a little bit more of the process as to how this was done. I took these two pieces out of the dye a few days ago, decided to kind of give them some days to kind of dry off, to soak up some air, and kind of, you know, I don't know what to say, just get all the odor out of them. And then when it came down to that, I decided to kind of like go ahead and carve out the little lines for the muffle of the hat or the ruffle of the hat, whatever, and for the little pom-poms on the top. And then once it came down to that, I noticed there were places in the wood where it was still kind of a little rough from the sides, so I decided to take some sandpaper and to sand along those lines. Luckily, it didn't remove much of the red, but I decided to go ahead and take care of it on the other sides as well. Then I did special little measurements that helped me to carve out these little lines in here from which I made the eyes, and then carve a line in the front and on each side to make the mouth, and that's how I came up with the little elf here. There's going to come a time when these are going to be in pictures that'll be posted to Facebook on the business page. Do believe that before that time, there's probably going to be moments I'm going to put my little logo label on them and kind of, put my initials and the year on them somehow. So that is how that's going to come out, and we're going to try to find a way to get these online eventually, get them out to shows, and I'd say probably before a final picture is taken, maybe soak them in some oil to kind of replenish the wood a little more. And I appreciate the fact that any of you all watch this channel, and I'd say that if you're on the YouTube watching it right now, I would like it if you would click the subscribe button and consider subscribing to this channel. I'd be interested in having some more subscribers and get the word out there, get a little more known as to what I do, what I make, and how it goes. And thank you all for watching again. Take care and stay safe.